Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got player props for you guys here on a Wednesday night with just one game between the Celtics and the 76ers. We are going to also have the best bets video up for you, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us throughout this postseason. Also want you to head to thelines.com. We're putting all the picks up on the site and more up there. And we also have the odds finder tool you can use. Make sure you're going to check that out so you can shop all these lines across these books to the best of your ability this postseason. Looking real quick, Nate, at how yesterday went. Pretty good night there. Jaylen Brunson had a huge second half after a pretty slow start to the game. Got over the 25 points there, which was great. LeBron, I actually had him at over 25 and a half points in what I was talking about, and he missed. He ended with 22 or 23. He missed 7 or 8 3-pointers. Really, just 2 more would have been so great, LeBron. But I think I'm done going for his points. He might get there eventually, but not this one. Austin Reeves also came out flat, only 10 points in that one. That was not good. Clay hit his only shot in the fourth quarter to get over his 22 or 23 points, ending with 25. Don't worry, party people. Nate and I are going to be recording a video about the Dubs and Lakers game 2, and I assure you I will be fading Clay's points for player props in that one as well. But we move along here to your first NBA player prop, and you have Boston Celtics game here, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, I admit I liked this one more before Joel Embiid was ruled in, but I still like Jaylen Brown to come out strong and to go 7 points in the first quarter, even money. I will also say, his prop is for 25 right now, but I'm going alternate. I'm going for him to get 27 at plus 126 here. Look, Jaylen attacks the paint, whether Embiid's in there or not. He has posterized Embiid a couple times. He's not afraid of anybody. And I mean, more importantly, in terms of this first quarter, is he just comes out aggressive in the playoffs. This year, in the first quarter in the playoffs, 9.3 points per game. In 10 minutes per game, he's a plus 47. In game 1 of this series, he came out with 14 points in the first quarter on 6 for 7 shooting, finished 8 for 10 with 23 points. Like, why? That is the main reason the Celtics lost. There's certainly some internal discussion about that. Jaylen, stay aggressive. So I think he will both get this in the first quarter and stay aggressive throughout the game and get 27. I talked about a parlay with him to get 25, Tatum to get 25, Brogdon 15, and the Celtics win. That gets you some great odds there. Like, since the finals last year, I mean, here's how he did in the first quarter: 7, 17, 2, and 7 against the Warriors. And in his last 2 in the first half in general, 23 and 16. So clearly he likes to fill it up early before kind of deferring late to Tatum or Brogdon or whoever else is exploiting the mismatch. But it's all about energy for him. It's going to be about energy for the Celtics tonight. I think they're going to try to push the pace, certainly more than the 89 pace we saw last game, because Embiid is hobbled and you got to make him run. You got to make him guard in pick and roll. So I think they will be pushing off makes and misses, and that means more attempts for Jaylen in transition or semi-transition.
And I know that you're just like on him to be super aggressive this game. So, I mean, the first quarter one makes sense. The points make sense as well. If you think that he's just going to be like, wait, why did I stop shooting in the second half at some point? I hope so. I hope he realizes that. It's so weird to me how he disappears like that randomly. So, I mean, maybe it's a mental thing. Either way, I'm good chasing this. I mean, the first quarter bet is something that I'm less on, like you said, as well, because of Embiid's arrival to this game. And now we're kind of in like, let's feel it out mode in the first quarter, which does diminish that a bit for you. But I think as far as the points go for Jaylen tonight, getting him, over the 25 and a half either way, if you want a bit more juice for like one more point, I totally see it and am with you on it. So I'm going to look at Papa Al Horford now, Nate, because really, I mean, that's where we often turn when it's 76ers and Celtics. I'm looking at his threes first and foremost. It's not a lot of juice, but just like give me a little bit of something to play with, which is, over 1.5 threes for him. It's like minus 145 on DraftKings. I'm still going to put a full unit on it. And like I said, just build that up a little bit and get some money there. And then if you want to look at 3+ threes, it's plus 165 on DraftKings. I think that's worth like half or quarter unit, something smaller there as well, because of the fact that he's averaging that basically in his a bunch of the like last 8 games versus the 76ers that Embiid has been playing. I would also just throw out, I do like the points. You can get him at plus 106 right now on FanDuel for him to get over 8.5 points. So, I mean, Bob's your uncle if he hits the 3 threes there, and you just go ahead and cash the points as well. But even if he doesn't, I still think he's the beneficiary of a lot of not only, the end of the rotation around the perimeter passing that the Celtics do, but he's also a beneficiary of being guarded by Joel Embiid, who's not trying to come much further than the foul line, especially if he's hobbled right now, leaving Al Horford, pretty wide open in the place that he's normally playing anyway, either at the high post or in the 3-point line for this Celtics team, including even from the corner sometimes, which we love when we get those Al Horford corner threes when we take these 3 props for him. So, like I said, his last 8, he's averaging 2.5 against these 76ers with Embiid. He hit 3 and 5 of them the last 2 times out. He's hit at least 2 of them in 7 of the 8. That's why it's such, you get such low odds there for him to make 2, as he's done that, like I said, 7 of the last 8 times. But just going back to the last 5 games, including, this season and one last season, 3 for 7 from deep versus Joel when he's in there versus these 76ers, hitting those 3. So I'm getting pretty good odds to bank on it. I mean, honestly, if it goes all the way up to plus 425 on DraftKings, once you get to 4 threes made for Papa Al, do with that what you will. I think I'm just trying to continue to try to like keep this playoff run going, build up the bank a little bit with the over 2, sprinkle a bit on the 3, and feel good that the 9 points will hit with 2 threes made by him.
I like the threes. It fits into my game theory that the Celtics are going to put Embiid in a lot of actions and see if he can, go out there and contest threes against Horford, who actually led the league in 3-point percentage this year. And so he's probably not going to be able to do that and then scramble back and protect the rim and do all this stuff when he's playing on a torn or sprained LCL. So I think Horford will get some wide open looks, and it's just a matter of him cashing them. I don't think it's out of the question for him to hit 4. Sure. I mean, those are juicy odds, but yeah, I think if you combine 9 points with 3 threes, then you could potentially get a nice payday here. So my second prop shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. It is a 3rd time in a row, I believe, where I'm looking for Malcolm Brogdon to come through with 15 points. And the odds improve because Embiid is playing. But I'm more looking at the fact that Marcus Smart was listed as questionable. And he's probably going to play, but he's probably not going to be relied on as much. I mean, Smart had 2 points until the final 5 minutes of this game in game 1. And Brogdon had an easy 20. He was much more involved than Derek White in the first game of this series because it's a different matchup, and White was all over Trae Young last round. But I mean, even with that, Brogdon's been getting it's 16 points per game in his last 6 playoff games, also 4.5 assists. So 15 points. If you want to tack on 3 assists, the odds get a little bit worse, but he's averaging 4.5 there. He's also averaging 4.2 and nearly 16 points per game in 15 games without Smart this season. So if Smart is limited in any way, the reason the odds go down without Embiid is because he might play a little bit less. If the Celtics have to go big, they can't play those 4 wing lineups, with Brogdon and the Jays and another guard. But he even had 18 points in just 28 minutes when Embiid was dominating on April 4th against the Celtics, and they were throwing multiple bigs at him at all times. It's because, if there's multiple bigs out there with the second unit, Brogdon's the only one scoring, the only one creating. So he's just going to be a high usage player in terms of the ball in his hands when he is out there. And I think he can continue to put Tyrese Maxey in the basket or blow by James Harden. These are just easy matchups for him in the backcourt, and I think he'll continue to score against the Sixers.
Yeah, we were both looking at him for sure. Kind of talked about that earlier. The 14.5 points starts to get a bit high just because it seems like, he needs to have like a slightly above average game to get over 14. That's right about where he does most of his scoring in the games that he's playing, like 30 to 33 minutes or so. But I'm still, one thing I was looking at for him too was the assists. It's not something that he's done in great, with a lot. He hasn't done it a lot against the 76ers. He's not getting a ton of assists. He does get the points a bunch more so, to your point, because of the action they put him in and that they put the opposing centers in for the 76ers. And he ends up shooting off of that a lot more than he ends up passing. And that's why the over 3.5 assists is actually plus money for Brogdon in this one. I'm fine with adding it to the points and having that as the combo like you're suggesting. It is obviously less juice there than if you just take an assist and add it in there. But it does also add up that like he'll continue to be open from deep as things happen. He's also been driving into the lane a bunch. We'll see how much he does that with Embiid in there, to your point. But I think I would probably take the points and assists on that one and consider the threes as well. I know he only hit 2 last game and missed 4 of them, but if he's going to take 6 threes and I can get him to hit 2 or 3 of them for some decent odds in there as well, I would consider that. But I'm going to finish things off with a controversial pick. Mr. James Harden, 29.5 points and assists combined. And I'm going over. And I'm going over on the assists as well with a little bit, 8.5 assists. And the reason I'm doing that is because I was fading his points with Embiid in there. And I was ready to go under on the points again. But I just don't know exactly what I'm getting from Embiid yet, like we've talked about. And I want to know what I'm getting first. But I feel okay adding the points and assists in there. Because if Embiid is not able to play, he scores against the Celtics, and I chose to ignore it and rely fully on on his stats in the playoffs, in the last couple seasons. But like, it's just a little bit of a different ball game for some reason when he's playing Boston. I'm going to put some more weight on that. And I admit that I was wrong in game 1 by saying, if he's going to come out with Embiid on the floor, he averaged 11 assists per game with him in the 51 games they played together, including the 53, including the playoffs there. 9 assists is plus 120 on DraftKings. So like, I feel pretty good. It's a pretty distinct, like 2 less assists pretty much when Embiid's not on the floor, because obviously he's looking to score a bit more. He's got 8.2 assists in the game in the playoffs, including 2 games without Joel playing in there. But I also thought it was interesting that he has the 5th most potential assists in the playoffs with 12.2 a game, meaning that there's 12 opportunities that guys are missing shots that he's passing them the ball. That I think a couple of those in there, and you easily get your 9 assists for plus money in there. So like I said, I'm throwing the points and assists together because he's covered that in all 5 against the Celtics this season. He's averaging 38 points and assists per game versus the Celtics in 5. He's averaging 31.5 points and assists in the playoffs. So even in the games where he's disappointed those who are trying to follow his points and go over on his points, like he's come up short for you guys. But in those games, he's gotten 11 assists, 13 assists, 8 assists, 9 assists. So I think he's a good bet to get that with Embiid. I think he's going to look to at least, use him in that sense in the pick and roll, get him the ball, get him some easy buckets, et cetera, et cetera. So I think say what you will about Harden in this one. I think the points and assists continue to be a good bet for him. Wipe that smile off your face.
Coming back around. For anyone who didn't watch the show 2 days ago when Josh wanted under Harden points without Embiid in a game 1 low stakes situation, I was like, this is a horrible idea. And I did not expect him to double that total, but he did. So I like the assists here more with Embiid in there. And because I think the Celtics are going to overplay him, right? I mean, he did most of his damage on that step back 3, which were almost always contested. And he's not going to hit 50% of those again, but that's clearly what he's going to lean on at this point because he can't really get by people as much at this point in his career. But I think the Celtics will kind of force him off that and get him into the lane and get him to make plays. So I would take over on the assists and probably over on the turnovers, which I think is plus money for 4 turnovers. And I think the Celtics will be able to force him into those. So I'm looking to fade Harden a little bit in terms of like not just dominating the series, because I do think there is some flukiness to that game 1 performance, but I'm definitely not going under on his points until we know that he's going to have to defer to Embiid. I think he'll still have more usage than usual.
Yeah, that's also where my hesitancy to touch his points alone would come in. I would also just throw out Rob Will actually has props up. You weren't seeing much for him before Embiid was ruled in because bookies know he's not really going to get much burn if Embiid's not out there. But with Embiid in there, 7.5 boards for him. That's something he's done in the last 2 with Embiid out there. He's averaging 9 boards a game in his last 5 against Embiid. So it still seems like a pretty good bet for him to get a bit more than 20 minutes that he's gotten, 15 minutes at times in this playoffs. More like the 25 to 30 that he's likely gotten. He has gotten when he's played against Philly with Embiid Embiid in there, maybe expect a bit more Rob Will, 7.5 boards over that feels like a pretty good bet as well. But that is all the time we have for you in our Player Props here today. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along and enjoy that game tonight. And until we see you next, happy betting.